Perfect. We have here today Catherine Chertudi and Paul Benvenuti, and I apologize for my mispronunciation. They are with the Hefty ReNew Program, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but thank you so much for being here. We've got a presentation from them, and we're recording this so other folks can watch it later. And then we'll have time for Q&A when they're done with their presentation. Catherine and Paul, do you want questions to come into the chat during the presentation, or would you like people to just make a note and wait until you're done? What is your preference?
They can put them in if they're putting them in the chat, they can put them in the chat during the presentation. We'll try and we're going to try and get through the presentation in a smooth and a short manner, so we can get to that Q&A. Because I think a lot of these questions typically have some detailed answers that we'd like to give as much time as we can to that.
Fantastic. All right, I will mute myself and let you two take it away.
Catherine, are you driving the slides?
No, you are in charge of the slides.
All right.
Well, Paul brings them up again. I'm Catherine Chertudi. I'm a consultant with the Hefty ReNew Program. I retired 4 years ago from the city of Boise, where the city of Boise was the first community outside of Omaha to launch the program on a permanent, ongoing basis. And the whole point of the program is to reduce the amount of materials going to the landfill and finding a good, useful life for those materials. So we'll talk about that shortly. And I'll let Paul introduce himself as he brings up the slides.
There we go. Can you guys see those slides now?
No.
No. Okay. I hit, it says I'm sharing. I can't see anybody, but I can see the slides. So let me see. Hang on. Let's try this again. Here's screen 2.
We can see you. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I can now see the slides. Can other people see the slides? Okay, we're good.
All right. There we go. Okay. Much better. All right. So like Catherine said, my name is Paul Benvenuti. I'm with the Hefty ReNew Program. I've been part of the program for 3 years. I joined in November of 2019 when it was called the Hefty EnergyBag Program.
Uh-oh. Paul is frozen on.
And obviously short. And but during that time we went back. I have 23 years of plastics recycling. So prior to joining Hefty, and kind of use some of that to retool some things and put some things going forward with the program that we're going to talk about here now. So like Catherine mentioned, that the vision of the program from Hefty was to advance the circular economy by enabling responsible end-of-life solutions for post-consumer plastics. The strategy obviously was to educate and engage customers in that, to simplify the collection process and reduce contamination at the MRFs. And then obviously we look to convert those plastics to higher value resources following the EPA hierarchy. The difference between that and every other company's environmental messages, we want to do that today and have an impact on the infrastructure with that today, working within recycling to actually reduce these materials that are causing problems within the recycling infrastructure. And how do we go about doing that and really changing the game? So the way the Hefty ReNew Program works is basically plastic trash or non-desirables for our recycling systems that we destined to the landfill are put into the ReNew bag. The bags are then placed in the curbside cart or at a drop-off. We do drop-off in all of our active program areas. That material is then picked up by the MRFs and sorted out and baled. And then Hefty actually takes the initiative and responsibility to get those materials to the end markets. And we're going to talk some more about the end markets as we go on. But I think one of the really unique things about the program is the fact that we actually take the material to the end market process. We keep stewardship of this. It's not a program where once the bag is sold and filled, we just go and kind of disappear from it. We are part of the process from cradle to new life. So these are some of the items that are collected in the Hefty ReNew program. As you can see, a lot of these are items that are problems for the most part within the MRF and recycling infrastructure. We look for a lot of flexible materials. These materials can be of any multi-layer barrier. It does not matter. We cannot take PVC. Obviously, we don't want batteries or foods or liquids in there, but we can take polystyrenes. We can even take EPS, and all that can all go into the same bag to be diverted to our end markets.
So where are we today? Right now, we're in the Boise area. That includes Ada County. That serves about 600,000 citizens in the Boise area. Omaha, Nebraska, they were one of the starts of the program and successfully started the program in 2016 there. Lincoln, Nebraska, as well as other outlying communities in the Lincoln and Omaha area. Cobb County, Georgia, Atlanta area, over 1 million folks in those areas are served by the program. And last November, Chattanooga, Tennessee came on board with a drop-off program with the goal to become a curbside program with drop-off as that extra supplement. To date, over 2,000 tons of plastics have been diverted through the end of 2022 through this program. So one of the things that's really important is it really is a four-legged stool to make sure that this all pulls together and accomplishes that end goal. It takes the consumers who are willing to purchase the packages of bags, the retailers to provide them, the municipalities that support the program, provide education and outreach, and municipalities can also be any form of local governments. Townships, counties are all partners in the program, and their support is critical to the success of the program. The MRFs, critical partners with the haulers to make sure that the materials are pulled aside, baled, and ready to go to those end markets. And those end markets then have to be evaluated, vetted, and making sure that they really meet the needs of the program.
So we see here again, this is the flow chart of the program and how we try and implement it. Like Catherine mentioned, consumers purchase the bags in stores. 1 box of bags, if you're looking at pickup for about every 2 weeks, is basically a year's worth of Renew bags to fill, and it does take about 2 weeks to fill the bags. I'm extremely conscious of what plastics I use and where it goes from my background, and it still takes at least 2 weeks to fill a bag with a family. Like I said, those full bags are put in the regular curbside is obviously the design of the program to try and attract even more users and convenience. And drop off is a big part as well. There is no limitation to this. If you do not have curbside access, there are drop off locations as well where the program is located. Brought to the MRF, like I said, the MRFs pull this out and bale it, and then those sorted bags are taken to our verified end users. You'll notice Dow Chemical is on this slide. So Dow is our vetting, is our partner on the program, and they do a lot of the vetting and technical work with the end markets to make sure one, that there's viability there, as well as a ongoing commercial success for those end markets. And then we also use their technical knowledge because we'll get into this later, but we do full life cycle analysis on all of our end markets for the program. So some of these end market opportunities, we really kind of have 3 buckets that we focus on. Well, we have 3 buckets we send to. We have 2 buckets we focus on. We do use the material can be used as alternative fuel. There are times where it does become a coal substitute in certain marketplaces and during certain issues of contamination and what have you. The second bucket would be pyrolysis, advanced recycling, chemical recycling, call it what you will. We are looking at commercially viable solutions to actually take this plastic back into plastic. One of the ultimate goals of the program is to possibly see a Renew bag made from Renew bag material. That would be a really cool story. So we do look at that from a true circular side of it as opposed to pyrolysis for fuel. But one of the other exciting buckets we look at, and one that resonates very well with our customer base, is new products. And so we continue to see growth and evolution in that. And a lot of this is into some upcycling possibilities, not just downcycling into pavement, things like that. Currently, we're seeing mechanical recycling going into things like building blocks and plastic lumber. To the left, you'll see that's actually a water mitigation material that's being made from renew bales, and that product actually works better than conventional materials. It's less expensive to install, and its environmental impacts are quite amazing. So it's very interesting to see this material continue to grow in places where it can be used and and see it be brought into new products. And with that being said, we continue to forecast for more of that to occur. The program started mostly as a fuel alternative, but you can see where the growth has changed. Last year, we actually shipped more material to mechanical solutions. Part of that is First Star Recycling, which is one of the original MRF partners in Omaha, has actually added a pelletizing line as well as a lumber process to the back end of the MRF. That's not a requirement to do the program, but the fact that they've actually implemented a value chain right there for the material they're collecting locally is a pretty amazing success story. And a lot of this has enabled us to look at forecasting out to where we'll have even more material going to these mechanical solutions.
So to make sure that we are choosing good end-of-life solutions, end-market, I should say, solutions for these materials, Dow and Reynolds have hired a third party to conduct life cycle analysis of all of the options available. The first round of LCAs is 1.0, alternate fuel for cement kilns, the pyrolysis technology, and concrete aggregate. 2.0 was finished in 2022, and that added the construction blocks, roof cover material, and the drainage material we talked about. In order to make sure that there is complete transparency with this program, with the public, the consumer, the MRFs, and the haulers, all of these life cycle analysis are peer reviewed and then posted on the Hefty ReNew website for you to review. So that's, I think, one of the unique things about this program is the amount of transparency and information available to answer questions that you might have about the program. And that is the goal going forward as we find and vet new in markets for the materials.
So with that change in our end markets and continued growth and evolution of the program, one of the things we heard back from both our consumers and our stakeholders was the name. The name EnergyBag kind of implied that this was only going to be something that's burned or turned back into fuel, and it really did not resonate with the environmental steps we were trying to take with the program and places where we see this material going. So the new name was launched this year in 2023. So it is now the Hefty ReNew Program. So we added some new logos and packaging and signage to it. We also added a drawstring, so we actually made the bag even more convenient for consumers to use, and we did get to a lower count for what they call easy math, which allows us to get into more of our retail partners. So very, very excited about that part as well.
So marketing assets. If you were a community like the city of Boise was that wanted to launch this program, one of the things that I was amazed by was the amount of information, assets, and materials that Reynolds Hefty provided to the community to launch the program. And that has continued to grow and advance. We all know that education is critical and that it has to be repetitive. We don't educate once, we continue to educate. Knowing that landfills are crowded with these plastic items that we really want to have another life for. And just ensuring that the program is accessible to everyone. It's simple, it's easy to implement in a community. Some of the assets that are included in the program are everything from billboard designs, social media. Reynolds supports an incredible amount of social media through purchase social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And it's geared towards the zip codes for the communities that are participating. So if you're not in a participating community, you won't get this information. If you are, you will get it. And so it's a great way to sort of target the audiences. Newsletter inserts, if you are a community with a lot of growth, like the Boise area has been, having a billing insert or having a new customer handout with a starter kit to get started in the program is really essential to bring the new people in the community into the program. So all those resources are provided through an asset link, and they are free and available for a community, the MRF and the hauler, to use. So you can see here some of those assets that help you drive awareness and participation in the program, and also to make sure that we're recycling right. I mean, we all want to do that and make sure that the communities understand and the citizens understand what can and cannot go into the bags and how to recycle this in relationship to all of the other normal recycling that you might do in a community.
So the collection is the key to the innovation of the Renew bag. The idea is to find a simple collection mechanism that people will actually use and use properly, that works with current recycling systems. So it allows for minimum burden or additional capital expense on the MRFs. They can implement this relatively easily in terms of their operational side of things. The other thing to note is that this is not an all plastics solution. The Hefty ReNew program is not designed to take away from materials like PET bottles and HDPE bottles that the MRFs are currently working with. We also can modify to not take the tubs and lids. If there's a MRF using tubs and lids, we actually can remove that from a preferred list as well. And then these are all collected in one bag, as we noted with one of the MRFs we talked to. The guys, I like the line, he goes, I don't want any of this material coming into my MRF. And then I said, well, you're getting it anyway, except instead of having to pick 25 to 100 bad items off your line, you're pulling off one very visible orange bag that becomes a positive sort. And we've seen some great success with that at our current partner MRFs, where they do see people less contamination, less loose plastics being thrown into the bins, because they understand that it's the program is the key to that collection.
So for a community, why would you want to participate? It helps you see those hard to recycle materials. And one of the things that I found interesting is in surveys of customers and that have participated in the program, it kind of goes back. Some of you may be, of a generation like me, where we used to sort all of our recycling into paper bags and put them in our little bins. We kind of go back to that in a way. And it makes people realize the value of what they're purchasing and disposing and what they can do to reduce the amount of waste that they produce. And so most consumers that have participated in the program actually see a waste reduction aspect as well. Consumers trust recycling when they participate in this program because they can see the transparency of what's happening with their materials. We educate, collaborate, and expand the program, working with the local retailers, local governments, universities, and community leaders all together to improve the recycling system, reduce contamination, and get the right materials in the right locations. Landfill diversion goal. This could help with many communities who have really aggressive, assertive landfill diversion goals, and making sure that these kinds of plastics are utilized. And one I think that's really exciting to me is that these technologies to take these materials are continuing to emerge. The demand for these materials will then grow with increased opportunities to divert them. And so I think we're at the leading edge of finding solutions and growing this kind of a collection program throughout the country.
The value to the MRFs and the recycling systems is like I said, it does not take away from current values of valuable materials. The printed guidelines are put on the box. They're on a QR code. We actually print them on the bag as well. We are constantly trying to educate and inform the consumer how to participate and how to participate properly. We actually have a recycling guide on our website where they can actually type in the item. Not the material, but the actual item that they're trying to recycle or dispose of. And we actually list not just if it can go in renew, but if it should go into your recycling, does it go into your conventional recycling? Should it go to landfill, or is it something it could be reused, or if there's other take back programs for a particular item? In that case, some of the bulkier and larger items that we sometimes get asked about. The bag was designed for this program. I think that's something that is key. This is not some extra orange colorant that Hefty had laying around that we made these bags. These bags are designed to go through the process of being put at the curb, getting put into a regular recycling truck, taken to a transfer station potentially, and then onto the MRF. We've tested both direct to the MRF and both through transfer stations. These bags, Hefty Strong is a real thing. These bags are designed to stand up to that and go through the system without breaking. The other thing this does, it can improve the value of other collected materials. You're having less loose plastics get into the commodities that MRFs are trying to collect. No one wants plastic bags in their fiber bales, and this is a way to reduce that and get some of those lighter weight materials like polystyrenes and straws and things of this nature into the bag. Also has a huge effect on the environment. These are all bad actor materials in the environment themselves. Even when they're put in the right place, a little bit of wind can get the lightweight plastics somewhere they don't belong, even when someone's tried to make the right effort. Having it contained in one bag and put in the cart or into a collection center reduces the risk and chance of these materials ending up as a problem in the environment. And like we mentioned, the bags are baled on site, and shipping and everything is arranged by Hefty. So we do take stewardship of the program, like I said, all the way through to the end. And I can see from the chat we have a ton of questions, so we can get to those. All right, so we start.
Wow, you guys are efficient presenters. Thank you so much.
We can talk for hours, so it's good to have good questions.
I see that there's questions in the chat, so if you want to go ahead and address those, and then I'll invite folks that have additional questions to either add them in the chat or raise your hand, and I'll call on you.
So, Paul, one of the first questions is, how much plastic is going to pyrolysis?
That's what I'm looking up, so I want to give an accurate answer to that. So I'm going back to my slides. I'm cheating, because I do want to give an accurate number on that. Currently, to pyrolysis, we are under 10% is going to pyrolysis currently. We're waiting on continued commercialization. We work with a lot of the up and coming ones that name an article that says they're going to take plastic and make it back into plastic. We probably are doing some trials or working with them. The idea for that is it has to be commercialized. We're not just going to ship material to somewhere and let it sit. We want to make sure that those materials are being used properly and being able to be used ongoing.
And Paul, follow up to that was, are any of these going to lubricants?
Not that I'm aware, unless it's any of their byproducts, but I don't know if any are going to lubricants specifically.
Yeah. Same commenter, very excited to see the asphalt use. We are too. And then the next was, how close are your processing factories to the pilot communities? So
we actually do try and locate with some end markets. That's kind of that's one of the factors we look at when we look at the stool, is trying to be as close as possible. Also, we do have with the LCA, we actually do have the mileage that we can ship to these different end products. So we do try not to exceed and have done a very good job actually of not exceeding those LCA parameters to stay close to those pilot or commercial end markets, so that we don't exceed that LCA. We want, like I said, we're very transparent at that and try and stay very, very honest and true to that.
So the next was, could these bags be made with 100% PCR? Someday. Right now, the tolerance to make a bag with the strength and conditions we need, the PCR pellet is not up to snuff or volumes, quite honestly, to make these bags and properly work.
We do have 20% recycled content in the bags currently. Where actually I'm meeting with our, this is probably more than I should share, but I'm meeting with our procurement department tomorrow about some other possible solutions to add some other PCR, including our own materials back in on some things. But it's a process. It's something we are actively working on and want to do. But again, we got to make sure that the bag does its job as well.
So the next one I'm going to take, because I love this question.
Okay.
Do you only accept Hefty products or products similar regardless of original manufacturer? And that is what I find so remarkable about this program. Reynolds didn't say, we're only going to take Reynolds products in this program. Reynolds said, we're going to be a solution for hard to recycle plastics. And they are non-discriminatory towards the plastics that are going into that program as to the source of the manufacturer. And that's pretty remarkable. I recently saw a program locally here in Boise that would only take back what that store sold. And to me, that's a huge burden on a consumer that I have to sit there and think, oh, where did I purchase this? And I could take it back there, but what about this? And where do I take it? We want to make this program successful because the consumer finds it an easy program to use in their own home. And if you've got one orange bag that takes this huge variety of hard to recycle plastics, you don't have to think too much about it. You just put it in that bag. So I'm excited about that. I think that's a pretty amazing thing that a corporation would step forward and say, we want these materials regardless of the source.
And thank you so much, Catherine. I see that Stacy has her hand up, and I wonder if her question is related to what you were just talking about. So I want to give her the opportunity to jump in here.
No, it wasn't. I think my question is, so I was formerly the quality manager for all of Waste Management's recycling facilities. And the reason that Waste Management and the big players are not interested in the solution is threefold. One, we're telling people not to bag recyclables. And so this message becomes confusing.
Right.
Two, asking people to buy a plastic bag will quickly become something they don't do, and then just put these in a regular plastic bag. And then now you don't have the color differentiation. And three, we already have people on pre-sort who spend all their time trying to pull off plastic bags. And so if they can't pull off those plastic bags because they have to pull off this plastic bag, that becomes an issue. And then four, they don't have bunkers to put the material into. So viable products like tubs and lids, they can't separate because they don't have a bunker anyway. And so now we're going to do this. So my question is, why are you guys not pursuing separate collection, which is really what the whole industry needs? We need separate collection for all of these unrecyclable plastics. So why not try to partner with like a Ridwell to really do a separate collection so we can get these materials, but they don't go to the material recovery facilities?
Stacey, I'm going to take the consumer side first, and then I'm going to let Paul talk about the logistics because that's his expertise. I can tell you that when I started the program in Boise, Idaho, we had some of those very same concerns from a consumer perspective and a use perspective that you raised. I would say Boise, Idaho is a good example of a mid-sized community implementing the program. And then you go to Omaha, Nebraska with 1 million folks. So we have a pretty good range here. And we also in the Boise area have very small communities of 6,000 people participating. What has been remarkable to me is the number of customers that have embraced this program, and they do a fantastic job of using the bags properly. And for the MRF that we have here in Boise, Idaho, that is fairly unsophisticated, a fairly simple MRF, this has actually solved a lot of their management problems within the MRF. I think we underestimate sometimes the commitment a consumer might have to doing the right thing. And with the orange bag, the Hefty ReNew program, it gives them the opportunity and with the educational resources to really do the right thing. So my experience, both in Boise and what I've seen in Omaha, what I've seen in Cobb County, Georgia, what we're seeing in Chattanooga, Tennessee, has been extremely positive from the consumer perspective of embracing the program and using it properly. And Paul can talk about the logistic.
The logistics side on the separate pickups, the smaller pickup materials from an LCA standpoint, we're really not solving the problem by putting that extra truck on the road. We're really trying to get these materials out of the bin loose where they're causing those problems at the MRF, like you mentioned. What we're seeing is we do see less contamination when they're using it in the bags. The bag becomes a positive sort as opposed to the multitude of negative sorts that are within the bag. We also see this as a convenience. So we're seeing, people want it to be easy. They understand they're paying a little more for the bag, but they understand they're buying a program, like Catherine mentioned, and they actively participate. Our participants in this program are extremely passionate. They're online in the communities that have it, talking about what can go in the bag, talking about how they use it, sometimes sharing what stores they're available. So if someone asked about stores, we are in our local, we work with the local retail partners there. We do have a direct to sell button as well on our website that we have to manage because we geofence this material. We do not. So, for those of you in Denver who think, hey, this is a pretty cool idea, you cannot buy the bags. We're not sending these to MRFs that don't want them or don't know what to do with them. Our name is on the bags. These are not generic orange bags that are going out there and someone says, well, if they do it, if they recycle it, great. If they don't, well, I tried. No, these have our name on it. If they're ending up in places they're not supposed to, we're responsible for that. And so it's a much bigger goal. It's a much harder goal, quite honestly, than how it could be done with just like a take back or put a box somewhere. The design of this is to really improve and help the recycling infrastructure. With that being said, making MRFs bigger, adding another place to store materials, that needs to be done to just about every MRF. That's an ongoing issue we have in our industry of just not having all that space and resources we need to put that together.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the next questions was packaging EPR programs in Colorado and how it will affect the Hefty ReNew program. That's something we need to learn from you.
Yeah, that was my question, you guys.
Yeah, so that's an ongoing, I think, conversation. And we need to learn a lot more about what Colorado's programs are, what your goals are, your expectations, your timeframes, and see how we can make this program work within that framework.
And I would add to that answer a little bit, Catherine, is Colorado has not yet selected the PRO, which is the Producer Responsibility Organization. And the first duty of the Producer Responsibility Organization is to do a needs assessment, where they're going to look at what is the capacity of Colorado, what are the gaps in Colorado, what is it going to cost to make the system work. And this should be part of that conversation when the PRO is evaluating how would we make this work, what are the programs that already exist that could be deployed in Colorado. One of the constraints is the Colorado Producer Responsibility Organization does not consider using plastic to create fuel recycling. And that is not an insurmountable issue, because what Catherine and Paul have made clear is there's a portion of the material that goes to fuels, and then there's a portion that goes to either mechanical or chemical recycling, both of which are recognized by the Producer Responsibility Program in Colorado. And so that it's a matter of math and calculation. So there's a lot to be determined. So we don't have a good answer yet because we don't have those things in place. But I absolutely see that this could be part of the conversation moving forward.
Thank you. The next question was, who are the manufacturing plants, or where are they located that are making these new materials?
So I mentioned First Star Recycling's in Omaha, Nebraska, using it and making new materials. Some of their pellet is actually going to other manufacturers beyond that as they're trialing the pellet they're making from this as well. We have mechanical end markets in California. We have 2 in Pennsylvania, and one coming to Florida, actually. So excited about that since that's where I'm located. But we currently do not have one in Colorado, but that we're hoping that soon changes. That's part, like I said, part of these conversations, kind of how this all sparked, and we got pulled into this or asked to be part of this. Is because we're looking for some of those solutions, and some of those solutions are looking at us. So excited to continue to grow that and see where we can add more viable mechanical solutions.
So where do people purchase the bags? Well, in the Boise area, we have Target, Albertson, Safeway, Lowe's, Walmart, and Fred Meyer, Kroger brand, as well as the online options Paul talked about, and Lowe's. I think I said Lowe's.
Lowe's,
We also
Target,
have
don't forget Target.
Target has them online as well as in the stores. And the other one that we have here locally is a local co-op. They wanted to be one of our first folks to provide the bags for their customers. So depending on the market area, that's one of Reynolds' jobs, is to find those partners if they don't have national representatives already there, retailers there, but also to find retail partners in every community. So in the South, they're looking the Publix stores, which I don't know and I don't have, but Publix is coming on board this summer. And that's a big one for a lot of our Southern partners. So Liz Chapman, is it possible for mechanically recycling these materials in Colorado?
Like I said, not yet, but we're working on that.
Yep.
Ryan, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, a quick comment and then a question. One, I'm glad to see the percentage of incineration go down. I hope that can go to 0%. I think everyone on this call would agree that incineration is not recycling.
Agreed.
But I am concerned to see that chemical recycling piece be expected to grow more. Chemical recycling is a hot topic with recyclers. And from my understanding is that a lot of chemical recycling is plastics to fuel. There's also plastics to plastics, but it's just another avenue that eventually gets turned into fuel that is not circular. And then I linked to a report from the Department of Energy and from NREL showing that plastics to plastics recycling through chemical recycling has the environmental and economic impact 10 times greater than using virgin plastics. So I'm curious if you have a percentage breakdown of that chemical recycling of how much is plastics to plastics, how much is to plastics to fuel, and
it would mostly be
why
plastics.
perpetuate these technologies if they haven't proven to work?
Well, one, we're not perpetuating anything. We're anticipating new technologies and forecasting for the future, which is where we need to be as these things continue to change and emerge. The plastics to fuel is not something we're excited about. That's actually why we actually pivoted back way back in 2020. We did a hard turn internally to some of the things we were doing and where we're trying to go with these materials. It's kind of scary, the fact that I agree with you on incineration. The sad part is coal alternative has a better greenhouse gas effect than the current pyrolysis plants that are not operating at capacity yet. So that study quote does indicate those same things. Part of it is getting up to scale, and that's what we're looking at. Is the idea is that in those years when these plants come up to scale, would there be better? Will be more plastics being used for plastics to plastics? So it's more so forecasting to keep the options open on that, but it's not something we're necessarily promoting or putting out.
Yeah,
And
I
again,
think, Ryan, you hit it right on the head. That this is a very controversial issue. There are folks out there who I was just recently at a conference in Utah, and there were folks there that advocated that the only way that plastic should be recovered is to make new plastic, total circularity. And so they were totally in support of that over the use of the materials for lumber or durable goods. So I think it's a trend that we're going to have to watch and see what the value is for everybody, and the life cycle analysis approach to really understand those end markets. But I think you hit it on the head. It's a very controversial subject right now. Let's see. I think we're talking about some of these things. What are the challenges to making pyrolysis a viable solution? Energy requirements compared to virgin plastics. I think, Ryan, link to the website. Paul, anything more to add there?
No, like I said, I mean, he hit it on the head. It's definitely something that's I mean, and there is some chemical recycling that has worked for 25 years that no one talks about, because it's not new, it's not exciting, and it's it's something that my old company we used to sell into for quite a bit to make new products actually out of, which was really exciting. But there is a lot of controversy around that, and like I said, we keep a very close eye on it, and we really try not to push that as our number one agenda. Actually, that was part of the name change, was to get away from the energy bag, to get away from that idea of this being plastics to fuel.
Yeah. What fraction of the population participates in the current programs?
Catherine, you want to talk about Boise?
That's a really tough one, because we're not watching, how do I say this? When you purchase a package of bags, it may take you an entire year to use them with every other week collection. So knowing how many people are participating is a really tough number. What we do know is the total amount of materials being diverted from a community. And so that is closely tracked. The other thing that's closely tracked is retail sales, knowing that in some markets, this is the number one SKU on a trash bag shelf in a grocery store. And this is purchased more frequently than, say, a box of trash bags in that store. We know that. Reynolds and Dow also do every other year audits of the bags. So take out 150 bags from the community, making sure it's representative of the community at large, and auditing those bags for weight, levels of contamination, are they using them appropriately? And what's been interesting in the Boise area is the poundage in the bags has gone up over time. Folks became more and more comfortable with the program. They tend to actually overutilize the bags. I have to stop myself as well. You want to stuff it full, and we try and remind people, don't overfill the bags, because they get excited about it and they will overfill them. And there's more chance of problems when they do that. So we're going to be doing, like Paul said, there's going to be a big announcement in the next few months of a new partner with the program. And there will be a very strong data collection component to the launch of that program. And Paul can talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so we're actually going to be using AI at this facility to do a pre and post study of the impact of the program coming in. Unfortunately, at two of our piloted MRFs, when we did this, they both added some technology at the same time, so there was no real good pre and post done on that. So we're very excited to actually be able to capture this and put some quantitative data behind some of the qualitative data we get back from our MRFs on this. So that's an exciting opportunity.
Next one was, do the end manufacturers purchase the materials that they receive?
Hopefully someday. Right now, this is on us. The sale of the bag helps fund part of the program, but right now this is Hefty's responsibility. So we are currently continuing to develop those markets, trying to create a demand. Hopefully someday a renew bag bale is a known commodity, but we're not to that level yet.
Next one, Stacy, follow-up question from your series of questions. There's a company here called Ridwell that picks up separate plastic streams. This might be a good fit for working with them, excuse me. And as Paul said previously, the goal here is to exist within the current recycling system and try not to put more trucks on the road. And I think Ridwell has a great model for communities that don't provide a lot of opportunity for the diversion of materials. And we'll see how this all plays out in the long term, but definitely we're aware of what they're doing. And we're trying to simplify the process for the customer as much as possible and use the existing systems as much as possible. Paul, anything more to add to that?
No, you said it perfectly, Catherine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On that note, Catherine, could you elaborate a little bit about the difference between a drop-off program and a curbside program?
So in most of the communities like Boise, we started out as totally a curbside program only. That was our goal. We wanted to make it really simple for the consumer. They didn't have to think too much about it. You already put your recycle card out, just toss this on the top of your materials. What we found very quickly, and I think other communities have as well that started that way, is you want to be able to provide equity to all of the residents in your community. So for folks that may live in multifamily housing, they may not have access to recycling in the same way that the curbside residential, single family residential have. We found out pretty quickly that people were actually delivering filled orange bags to our MRF without any collection container there. And so we knew we needed to step back and provide that opportunity for folks that need that. They need that availability. Chattanooga, Tennessee has taken a little bit different approach. They wanted to get their feet wet with the program. So they started with a drop-off program with the goal of incorporating, based on the success of that, incorporating it into their curbside program. Cobb County, Georgia, they're sort of a mix. They have both curbside and drop-off, and partly because of that mix of the local community characteristics, where they want to provide an opportunity for folks who don't have access to curbside recycling, while at the same time having it available in existing curbside programs. Paul, any more that I should add to that?
No, I think that the point though, like I said, when we piloted when we did pilot in Boise, and this was before my time, but looking back at the old scrolls, if you will, curbside was the main goal. Drop off is now part of any rollout we do. We have to have drop off locations. In fact, with our new partner, that was one of the things that we went to them and said we'd have to have drop off as well.
And we know like in communities, rural Nebraska, good example, rural Idaho, they don't have curbside at all. So if we can find ways to incorporate a drop-off program to provide them access to this program, we want to do that. Working with some of the rural communities that might have transfer stations, can they add a container that would just hold the orange bags? Things like that. So it's finding that access point for communities and making it work for them.
Michelle, I'll take the bad news question because then I can answer Christopher's question with some good news. So Renewology, that is not to be confused with Renew. It was not our plant. That plant was before my time. And there's a reason why they created my position at Reynolds. So because I'm a red herring at a CPG company to have a guy that knows how to identify plastic, grind it up, and then who uses it. But that plant was never up to the commercialization it was supposed to be. Kind of goes back to Ryan's comments that we're not going to make that mistake twice. So there's nothing going to the chemical people until we see those real commercialized results. And so that plant was unfortunately shut down. I mean, I think they had Tim and I even talked about this at the PRC. Great ambition, but you have to have some reality to what's going on with it. And Catherine obviously was a big part of that in terms of help solve that issue after it occurred, because it was the Boise material that was going there. So we're happy to say that all that material did still get diverted from landfill. Christopher's question about percentage of contamination in the bag. I love this question because we get very little contaminations in the bag. We actually have we use a conservative 9% rate of materials that are not being fully processed when they get to our end markets. Some it's even less. We found a capture rate of over 90% of materials are what we want in the bags, because the consumers are buying the bags because they're active participants. They really try and put the right thing in the bag. That percentage goes up if we also count plastic materials that aren't supposed to be in the bag. Like so we kind of count polyethylene as a contamination when we do our audits. When we get a polyethylene bottle, because that should be in the regular MRF. We count PET bottles as a contamination. But interestingly enough, if we don't count those as contamination, that percentage, the percentage of good materials or desired materials in the bag goes up even higher. So we're very pleased with how our consumers work with the bag program and put the right things in there.
So one of the other questions there that I wanted to make sure was, what other states are we planning to offer the program? Pretty much any. But we do have targets, because you can't take 50 states on all at once. We want to grow the program in our existing states, Idaho, Nebraska, and Georgia. But we're also looking at a number of states in the Midwest. We'd love to see Colorado and communities in Colorado involved. Spoke recently with folks in Utah. So we're looking at Utah, as well as some other communities in the South and Southeast. So, but we'll go anywhere. You just help us find a MRF and we'll find a way to make the program work. So.
And I see Tim's got his hand up. Tim.
Tim.
Well, Recycle Colorado, right, took a tour to the Renewology Center 6 years ago, and they were pretty ambitious. Paul puts a good word on that. I'll just show you one good news about that program is they did sell a system in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I talk to those guys about every quarter, and they're making fuel, they're having good luck with the recycling process and the process with that machine. But they had a lot of do work to get it to run right and the materials they gave it. But there is a little success out of that venture. I think they're still trying to do some things up there in Utah, but they were never successful at actually running it consistently in that market. So that was it.
Well, that's fair. The question on the cost. So cost to community, there are no costs, there are no upfront costs on any of this to participate. So there's no fees. When we get a participating community, all of the licensing and materials provided by Hefty and our marketing team is actually all free, as long as the agreements are in place that the material is getting to where it's supposed to go in terms of our contracted MRF, so that we actually get the bales and when the material does get diverted and we keep that we can actually do that tracking and keep the proper accountants of that. As for the hauler, this is part of the regular routes, so we have not seen any increased cost to the hauler. These are materials that they're probably hauling anyway from wish cyclers and the like. So we have not seen any complaints or hurt on that, because the bag is in the cart. It's not put onto the side. And as for the MRF actually gets to make some money on this process. So because we keep possession of the material, a little different than some other material ad things where they say, okay, here, add this program, and then here's some potential customers and good luck. We actually keep possession of it, make sure it goes to those end markets. So the MRF actually has there is a financial incentive for the MRF as well, mainly for some of the reasons Stacy mentioned earlier. There are those considerations. Space has got value. Yeah, they're not necessarily putting in a brand new robot or a brand new conveyor belt for this process, but space is an issue. Training for their labor is an issue. So we do make sure the MRF is actually compensated.
And I would add, from a community perspective, you can invest as much as you want or need to. There is no financial commitment or obligation. So if you were a small community that the best you could do was put a little notice in their community newsletter, fantastic. You choose the amount of effort that you put into the program, and we're there to support you in doing that. But Reynolds will accompany that with all of the social media and local buys for that marketplace. One of the things we found with the partners, Kroger, Fred Meyer, they'll put shelf talkers out on the shelves to tell customers exactly what the program is, and here's the bags and here's where to go for more information. So we have those kinds of partnerships built with those retail partners to help support the local programs.
And Catherine, I see there's one last question in the chat, and then we'll go to Ryan's question.
So how do we partner, or do we partner with howtorecycle.org? I don't know much about them, but I do know that we're working with the TRP on.
We're working with Recycling Partnership. The howtorecycle.org, some great ideas, some great efforts there. But until we have a better understanding of what impact we can make nationwide with this program, I think a little bit too aggressive. And one of the things we're really trying to do with our transparency, our LCA on this is we're really not, this is not a an item that we're trying to put out there without scientifically backed information as to what's happening with the materials and where they're going. So it's really trying to be very careful not to say all of a sudden, hey, all our stuff's recyclable. Kind of. That's not a good answer in our opinion. So we're really trying to keep some stewardship to that, both on what we're doing with the materials and how that information is being put out to our consumers. Go ahead, Ryan.
And yeah, Ryan.
Question: to successfully launch this program, do you need buy-in from all the MRFs in a community or region that operate this program? I was actually born and raised in Omaha, so I know that, you know, somewhat of an island, so, you know, you can keep that contained. But in Colorado on the Front Range, there are a few different MRFs. Yeah, it might be the case that one or two or more MRFs don't want to participate in this program. So I'm curious, to successfully launch this, do you need thumbs up from all the MRFs?
For full success, you need thumbs up from all the MRFs. When you have multiple MRF, you really do, and it's you know, it's the part that makes the program both you know, its goal to be actually part of the recycling infrastructure, and quite honestly, the burden for me. That's my cross to bear, to get all those MRFs to sit down and actually nod their heads and agree to something. So it is a challenge. It is part of the reason when we look at expansion, we try and find either islands, like you said, or where a MRF has the ability to influence. So we look, if you have a MRF that's kind of controlling things and is willing to work with the smaller MRFs in the area on it, which we have some of those that do that. It's been more successful, I should say. I don't want to say very yet, get ahead of myself, but we do see a lot more ease of implementation and work with that. But that's a great question, Ryan.
Yeah, and Paul's been dealing with that in the Georgia area, the Atlanta, Georgia area. And so he's
because we get communities want to grow it, and some of the MRFs, you know, depends on which MRF they go to, if they can grow it or not. So it becomes a little tricky with that. If you have a hauler that's contracted, or the MRF's the hauler and it goes to one MRF, that does make it a little easier when there are multiple MRFs. But at the same time, I said we really want to be careful to not have our materials getting where they don't belong. And then, you know, it then becomes very easy for that MRF to also then bash the program because, oh, they're not doing anything with this stuff. You know, so, well, we wanted to, you guys didn't want to, which, you know, so that's why we have to be very, very careful. Like I said, having all four legs of a stool built is really key. And it takes a lot of cooperation, a lot of effort on that to make that happen. It is, you know, it's more than your typical take back program, and we understand that, and it does take time and effort to do that.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation and the amazing questions. Again, very reflective of the brain power that we have amongst our Recycle Colorado membership. Absolutely. Thank you so much for great discussion. Paul, did you have a slide with your contact information that we could flash up on the screen before we close this out?
Actually did not, but let me put it in the chat real quick, okay, so everybody can have it.
And I believe we could also add it to the description of this in our post. As we close up, normally we end these sessions with a bit of an update from Recycle Colorado, but the discussion was so robust, I wanted to let that play out. So I will direct you to our website if you have questions. A note, we are not going to have a May snack and share because we're having our summit for recycling in Steamboat Springs, where we hope to see most of you. We will have a snack and share on the third Thursday in June. And Trash Panda, a local company that is taking plastic and turning it into disc golf Frisbees, will be presenting on their process in that June meeting. This will be posted on the website for anybody to view later. So with that, I will ask Allie to end the recording.